Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Alder Hour, your favorite way to end your working day. I'm Matt Alder from Recruiting Future, and this is the Alder Hour, which is part of the Purple Acorn Network. Now, lots of other great shows on Purple Acorn, so head over to purpleacornnetwork.com after the show if you want to learn more. But the best thing to do is to follow Purple Acorn on LinkedIn, and then you can see the live streams of all the shows and really get a sense of what's going on. This episode is also available as a podcast wherever you get your quality podcasts. Now, we are live this week. We're live every week, but I'm just going to say we're live this week. So please join in. Leave us your comments. We'll try and pick them up and make you part of the conversation as we move through the show. We've got a great guest coming up and we've got some really interesting topics that we're going to be talking about. So without further ado, I would like to say a big hello to my co-host, Rhona. Hi, Rhona. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm great. How are you today, Matt?
I'm very good. It is an absolute delight to be back at my normal desk with my normal microphone and my normal headphones, rather than some random French hotel room or in the middle of an electrical storm in Spain. So it's good to have a proper internet connection and a decent microphone. How are you? What's been going on?
I've been great, and I totally get what you mean. It's like just it makes such a difference when you're like in control. You like know all of your equipment, you know the internet's going to work, you know that the only possible issue can be someone else in your house using the internet where you can just like text them like, "What are you doing?" Um yes, perfect. I'm also happy to be back home.
Absolutely. Well, I was at Unleashed last week, and I was really impressed. Actually, it was a great turnout, and they just had some great content. I think that conference is really stands out from a content perspective for me because, to be honest with you, when I go to a lot of other conferences, I don't actually go to the content. I just stick to talking to the people and doing all the stuff that you can only really do face to face. But this one was great, and there was I think we might talk about it a little bit later, actually, in context of something that we're doing. But they had Professor Scott Galloway, who did one of the best talks about AI I think I've ever seen. Just, made sense, really interesting. So well done, Unleash. Really great event. Cool. So what do you have for us this week,
For
Rhoda?
trending or ending, we're talking about a new well, it's not so new, but an expanded regulation that the Chinese government did, regulating who can speak about certain topics on the internet. And I want to discuss what that means and if other countries should adopt that. So we'll see.
Cool. And also the other thing to say is that the clocks have changed in the UK. So I'm actually here an hour earlier than before because I don't think they changed in the US to the weekend. But it's still dark. It's like the dark Scottish autumn is upon us. So that's depressing. But never mind. Let's have a drink. Let's go to Points and Pints. Okay, so if you've not watched the show before, or you've not watched for a while, this is the segue or the section. What do you call a bit of a show? I'm not
The
sure. The bit of the
segment.
show segment. That's the word I was looking for. The second. It's been a while. The segment where we pick a beverage of our choice and discuss things that we found in the news this week. So I'm back in my office and I've got a drawer because I basically keep buying all these drinks in packs of 4 or 6 and having one of them. So I'm kind of revisiting one that I found from the summer, which is this Thatcher's Zero crisp and refreshing cider. I can't actually remember what I thought of it, so I'm going to have it again. And in the UK, we drink cider in the summer, and it's just dark outside, so it's my homage to the summer. Do you have anything this week?
I have my favorite drink that is always on the show with me, the Trader Joe's ginger beer. But really, I need suggestions from people on what I should be drinking because I think I ran out of everything I could possibly think of trying out. So either I start trying everything again to see if I change my mind, or if someone can give me suggestions, I would be so happy.
Suggestions in the comments for things that Rona should be trying in this
Non-alcoholic, please.
segment. Non-alcoholic. So here we go. There's my non-alcoholic cider. I can't remember what it was like, but let's have a look. I think I liked it actually. Thinking about it, let me try. Yes, it tastes just like sparkling apple juice. I remember now, which is effectively what cider is. If you take away the alcohol, so fair enough. And your Trader Joe's is as good as ever.
As good as always.
We really need to get them to sponsor this segment. It's like free
Yes, we
advertising
do.
for them. It's just it's insanity.
You know
Cool.
what?
All
I'm
right.
actually going to ask them next time I go.
You should do. You should do. Let's move on. Let's move on to the first headline. Okay, this is an interesting one. So it's a survey done by Dayforce, I think it was. 87% of execs are using AI on the job, compared with just 27% of employees. Now, with all of these surveys, they they start with these kind of sweeping generalizations. You had a look at it. I think they interviewed 7,000 people or 7,000 companies from across the world. So reasonable sample size. Interesting results. Now, one of the things that, unless I read this wrong, that they don't talk about in this article is why why there is this difference. They talk a lot about employees aren't using it, executives are using it. They don't really go into the reasons why. So I've tried to think of some as to why this disparity might be here. The first one, rather cynically, that I came up with was execs are looking at productivity and resource allocation, and trying to cut, trying to sort of cut resources and heads from the company, and they've been told that AI is a way to do that. I think also that perhaps there's the benefit of having more time, maybe more psychological safety to experiment, and perhaps some training. What do you think, Rhona? What did you make of this particular story?
I mean, I think I kind of had some of the same things that you thought. Like, I just think executives have more time. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They're also not worried about AI taking their job. So they can sit around and play with AI and figure out how AI can take other people's jobs. But yeah, it was interesting to me to see that more executives are the ones using it, and even beyond work for their personal life as well. Like you said, they just have more time and more psychological safety to just spend their time testing out things while other workers are under pressure to make other things happen.
Or we've talked a lot about shadow AI in the past. Maybe the employees just don't want to admit it. Don't want to admit that they're using, AI for all kinds of reasons, because it doesn't really. I don't know whether this really rings true. I'd almost, in some respects, expect it to be the other way around. So I wonder whether people just aren't comfortable talking about their AI use. They're using tools that they shouldn't be using. Are they worried that if they talk about how it's made their job easier, they might lose aspects of their job? That potentially could be an aspect of it as well, couldn't it?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Just now in the room, we were all pulling out our phone with ChatGPT. Like, that's what everyone is doing. Are you really saying that when someone comes and officially does a survey at your company? Probably not.
Yeah, no, it's kind of interesting, and I think that also, I think there's a bit about how are people using it, because I think that from what I've seen, kind of seen a little bit of research around this. It's most it's a big generalization based on no data that I can cite, but it seems that most people use it as a glorified search engine or a new type of search engine, without maybe delving into some of the other things it can do. And going back to the thing that I was talking about Unleash, Scott Galloway's presentation, he was talking a lot about that actually, Google and search and the universe in general gives us too much choice. And one of the things that AI does is it gives us an answer rather than a choice of answers, which is why people like it, which was a kind of a really interesting perspective. So I think there's more to dive into here in terms of how are people actually using it as well, rather than just using it. Because you turn your phone on, you're using AI. I think
Yeah.
it's I think we just need some kind of more in-depth analysis and clearer definitions. I think just talking about AI in blanket terms, it's just not good enough anymore.
Maybe that's what will start happening in 2026. We'll see people talk more in depth and about the why and not just tell us X amount of people are using AI,
Yeah,
hopefully.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's a bit like being on the internet in like the early 2000s. It's like we've got a website. Yes, we're on the internet. And it just becomes meaningless after time because everyone was on the internet pretty much, and lots of people had a website. Cool. Okay. Well, let's go straight on to the next one because it's linked, and there is just so much to talk about in this particular article. So it's an interview with the is it the CEO of Walmart?
Yeah, I was the CEO of Walmart.
Interview with the CEO of Walmart. And it talks about two different things, actually. It talks about the skills first work initiative, which Walmart has been pioneering with 30 other top American employers, where they're looking at building a shared skills taxonomy and actually really kind of going forward with skills based hiring, ignoring people's education and past experience, and really sort of focusing on skills, which has to be a good thing in terms of all the times we've had conversations about this on that show. So that's the first part of it, and the second part of it is Walmart are trying to sort of an AI enable their workforce. They're trying to give their workforce AI skills. And two things that kind of stood out from that part of it. First of all, the CEO gets very cagey when they ask him about potential job losses in the future. There's a lot of nobody knows. Let's see how it works out, which is probably a fair answer. But and there's a little bit in there about past technological breakthroughs have meant that jobs have changed, but their overall size of their workforce hasn't changed. So he kind of addresses that, I suppose, as well as he can. And the other interesting thing is that their AI skills, is coming from a partnership that they have formed with OpenAI. And I've noticed this more and more and more, that OpenAI are really kind of trying to get out there with that education piece, which kind of makes sense because they want people to use their product. And
Yeah.
recently, I swapped my subscription from, I think I had a premium subscription. I can't remember. I swapped it for a business subscription, and with that came access to all this training about how to use AI in lots of different job roles, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, a lot to unpack in this one. What struck you about it, Rona?
To me, it was an interesting article because on one side, the CEO is saying like, "Yeah, the job market's getting better, everything's stabilizing." I'm like, "Well, maybe from his perspective, I don't think that's what everyone else is seeing." But also, then I how he got kind of, like you said, cagey about the whole, "What does this mean?" But he was also saying that at Walmart, they've reallocated or, like, reimagined some of the jobs where people are now working more on, like, the delivery side and all of these stuff, and some of the jobs were that have been, he didn't say replaced, but this is my interpretation, have been replaced, people have been moved. So kind of like, in theory, that's what everyone should be doing, I think. I hope that that's where everyone's going towards, like reimagining what you can do with the people that you have. And yeah, I definitely liked the whole using the skills and creating these things. It was just an interesting article because parts of it I would read it and I would be like, "Oh yeah, that's amazing." And other parts I would be like, "Wait, what? Where did this come from?" So it was an interesting article.
But I think we should be very fair to them because we go on and on every week about employers not providing training or upskilling or resources for people to get familiar with AI, and that's very much what's happening here, which I think is a kind of a great initiative, and it's something that just has to happen. People need to be given, the time, the safety, and the resources to actually learn this stuff because it's complicated. It's not just like the internet where you could just go on, browse a few websites, then you kind of know how it works. Is like there is a lot to this, and a lot of things that people don't know that they don't know, and I think that makes it really important.
Yeah, that was really good. And I also liked when he was talking about the importance of like store managers. So we're seeing so many executives and so many people be like, "Yay, AI, we're just going to replace," and they keep talking about like frontline and all of these things. And in his conversation, in his answers, there was balance between, yes, we're going to leverage it, we're going to teach our people to use it, which is great, but we're not just like doing away with everything. We're figuring out how to incorporate it into what we do so that we can do the things that are important for us better. So like you said, yeah, let's give them credit for that.
And also, what better way to experiment and see what it can do for your company than enabling everyone to use it? And I'm sure that there'll be some really interesting use cases and things that come up from it. So so good. Well, big round of applause. We on balance, we like that. We like that particular article. Cool. Well, Rhona, I will talk to you again a bit later for trending or ending. But in the meantime, we have a great guest to talk to. Hi, Jamie. Welcome to the show. It's great to be talking to you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Longtime follower of your show as well as the Purple Acorn. So thrilled
Oh,
to be here.
thank you. Fantastic. Well, could you start by introducing yourself and telling everyone what you do?
Sure, I have been in recruiting for, 15 plus years. I've been in restaurants for over, and food and beverage for 20 years. Have been the TA operations manager at Swire Coca-Cola for the last year and recently promoted to the senior compliance manager. Additionally, I'm the president and founder of the Restaurant Recruitment Roundtable.
Cool. Tell us a little bit more about what Swire Coca-Cola does, and also I'd love to know more about the Restaurant Roundtable.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are one of the U.S.'s largest bottler for the Coca-Cola. We're based out of Draper, Utah, and we have over 50 locations. So we manufacture, bottle, and sell all Coke products, which include other things such as distributing Powerade and Reign and Monster, Fanta, Sprite, Dr. Pepper. So you name it, we are highly caffeinated, and we are leaning on AI as well and automations over here. So conversation, and we hire a lot of frontline workers. So really excited to be part of the call today.
Fantastic. So, tell us. Let's start with the kind of challenges. What sort of challenges do you kind of face in your industry? What's sort of going on in the market at the moment?
Yeah, so we have, our corporate office and regional sites as well as our high volume positions. So some of the challenges we face are um, AI. That's a challenge, right? We're using it, our candidates are using it. We also have we're trying to lean into skills-based hiring. We're looking at how do we use AI for that front part of the hiring process. As you know, there's a lot of attention right now on E9, E9, I9, and E-Verify. So looking at all of our processes with more money and attention going there from USCIS. And then I would say, in addition to that, just trying to stay competitive within the bottling market.
Absolutely. Let's just dig into the AI part a little bit deeper there. So, how are you sort of looking to use it? How's it affecting your business?
Yeah, so specific to like HR, we just wrapped up our HR summit a couple weeks ago, and we had an outside person. She's who came from HireVue. It's a product we use for skills-based hiring. Who came out and did some educational workshops for us. We also had our head of HRIS. We have Copilot Enterprise, and then of course I use ChatGPT all day long, personally and professionally. So if I'm picking out a watermelon this summer, I turned on the video and said which watermelon is the best one, and it had me roll them around and look at the color and listen to the sound. So it's kind of weaved in throughout what we do. Specifically with Copilot, I'll have it help calculate things for me for Excel, or even help me come up with some interview questions based on the job description. And I'm sure that the candidate on the other side is using the same thing, right? They're putting our job description in to come up with sample answers for our interviews. And then we do use it all the way really through the process, starting with the skills-based hiring. So
And what's the impact of candidates using it? Are you getting more applications because of it? Applications all looking the same? What sort of impact is it having?
we have a huge influx of applications. So unlike the restaurant industry that I've been in for 20 years, where we would, have to get really creative in grassroots efforts and pound the pavement, we have a huge influx of applications. So we're actually using it to screen out candidates and do the skills-based hiring. It's a requirement for some of our frontline workers to complete for certain specific positions, but it's been very helpful where we're calibrating who we hire for the best position, also leaning into it to help us with scheduling, things like that.
And from a TA perspective, because obviously things are changing at a million miles an hour from in talent acquisition at the moment. How do you build a high performing TA team at the moment, and what kind of skills do people need? It's kind of an ever moving, ever challenging thing, but interested to sort of hear your take on it.
I would say that's $1 million question. Some of the things that we do, I do what I call a Monday motivation. So every Monday we jump on a call together, and it's anything unrelated to work, and we get to know each other, and that allows us to better support each other and have a more collaborative environment. And that really creates high performing when you get to know each other individually and you feel like a person, not a name. We do teach backs on Wednesdays. We do quarterly trainings. We have LinkedIn Learning. We go out into the market, into the plants, and do job shadowing. So I don't think that I don't think it's one answer. I think it's a multi-pronged approach of all these different things you have to do, and then just recognizing that we all bring different things. We all have different experience, and we all bring different things to the table, and then trying to take those ideas and continue to evolve. I love the Japanese terminology Kaizen, which is the philosophy of continuous improvement. So I always think TA is very much like marketing or sales, where what maybe worked, I would say 5 years ago doesn't work, but nowadays it's almost like what worked a year ago isn't working today with AI and whatnot. So
yeah, exactly. And how do you sort of keep up to date? How do you keep up to date with what's going on, getting a sense of the way that things are moving?
I mean, honestly, it's listening to podcasts like this. It's attending webinars. It's going to conferences. It's leaning into peers. I mentioned I own the Restaurant Recruitment Roundtable. There's over 100 restaurant TA professionals where we meet quarterly, and we have an email distro, and we share best practices and ideas. And so I think it's just having this love for learning and being open-minded. And then at the same time, it's like contributing, right? Like networking isn't just giving, it's also, or not just taking, but it's also giving back. And so I think it has to be concerted. I think it's got to be ongoing and concerted efforts.
And tell us a bit more about the Restaurant Roundtable. What is it? What kind of goes on?
Yeah, it came up. It was just an idea I had 8 years ago, maybe 9 now. I always feel like it dates me. But when I was working for Kona Grill, leading the recruiting initiatives, I made some friends. One of my best friends is leading PF Chang's, and we started sharing ideas, and then Smashburger, and then Bloomin' Brands and Brinker, and all these companies started hearing about it, and it just evolved. So now there's over 100 different global brands that are represented, and we share best ideas. Sometimes we share candidates. Sometimes we talk about vendors. Sometimes we talk about, what are you doing? What are the trends? What are you seeing? What are the challenges? And we help work through those things. So it's a collaborative effort where we all work together. And it's been great.
Fantastic. And it's kind of really interesting because I think, we see this a lot in TA, where I'm sure that there are people there who are effectively competing against each other or competitors,
Sure.
but are still very much kind of cooperating with each other.
Yeah, I mean, specifically when you think about the restaurants, it's not like Swire Coca-Cola, where we have a territory that no one else can sell, produce, manufacture, distribute, right? Like no other Coke products have our territories. But with restaurants, you walk out of your restaurant, let's say PF Chang's, and you can throw a rock and hit 5 more. So it's extremely competitive. And so many people don't know this, but sometimes the same employee will split a shift. They'll work an AM shift at your restaurant, they'll take an hour break, they'll work a PM shift next door. So their industry is already extremely collaborative in that effort, and we wanted to bring that to the corporate forefront, where maybe we have this awesome EA candidate, but for some reason we're moving forward with an alternate as the first. And what do we do with the second candidate? We don't have any, so that we can share it if there's an office close by or something. And so it's removed this competitiveness where we know that at some point that employee might work for us too, but it's leaning into each other and opening that opportunity.
That's awesome. And in the time that you've been running it, what is it that's changed the most? What are the biggest changes been?
Hmm. I mean, there's been so many changes, from budget, from how we talk about DE&I, AI. Gosh, I think it always has the same challenges. It's like, how do you find the best people?
Mm.
And I think the biggest challenge, now that I'm thinking out loud, is probably there's fewer people that want to work in restaurants, right? It's
Right.
long hours, it's nights, it's weekends. There is no remote work, there is no work from home. It's really, most restaurants are 364, 365, and it's tough work. It's a labor of love. And I think COVID changed that dynamic for a lot of people, where they no longer wanted to kind of have that sort of work environment. So I think that's the biggest thing, is the shift in sheer supply and demand of candidates.
Yeah, that makes that makes a lot of sense. And so thinking about the future, I think it's we're getting near the end of the year now, so we can start sort of talking about predictions for next year and all those kind of things. But rather than put you on the spot like that, where would you like talent acquisition to end up? So looking at the kind of the current direction of travel, what does perfect, brilliant talent acquisition look like for you?
Oh my gosh. Waving a magic wand. I don't have the answer to that, honestly. I think in the perfect world, if I could wave a magic wand with that, it would be, using these new resources so people can do their job better, but not replacing people, just automating some of those manual tasks so we can spend more time doing talent management, so we can spend more time creating a pipeline and a bench, so you can remember, hey, that was a really awesome candidate. For whatever reason, we didn't move forward, but we want to reach out to them when we have that next opening. Or, hey, here's the potential with this person based on their skills, and here's what maybe we can use them in 2 years. So internally and externally, I think for me, it's just manually automating some of those things so we can do a better job with our with that really important strategy stuff.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think that's exactly what talent acquisition needs to think about. Really, kind of amp up that human part. I think we were talking about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. Just
Mm-hmm.
how talent management, L&D, talent acquisition, internal mobility, kind of all come together, and the humans kind of really drive that. So, well, let's hope that we can get closer to that in the next 12 months. Jamie, thank you very much for talking to me.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Now it's time for trending or ending.
So, China rolled out a new rule, or like an improved rule, to a regulation that they had started in 2022. And it's saying that if you're an influencer talking about medicine, finance, law, or education, you don't have to prove that you're qualified. You have to have real credentials, like official training, and the paperwork to prove it. On the surface, this sounds really smart. You're stopping random people from giving medical or financial advice online. But the thing is, credentials don't equal credibility. And this is something that we know and we've known. Like, if they did, half of the misinformation on the internet would already be gone. Because the truth is, a lot of the influencers out there are people who are actually credentialed, like college degrees, multiple types of college degrees, that are out there sharing information. And it's not always true. Some of the biggest sources of BS already have degrees. They've just learned how to monetize their authority. So what we end up with isn't fewer lies, it's like better branded ones. Now, the regulation itself only covers high risk topics like medicine and finance. But what happens if this thinking spreads if governments or like platforms start treating credentials as the only measure of truth. We've spent years in HR trying to break that exact mindset. We've removed degree requirements to make hiring more fair. We've built DEI programs so people without formal education could still work and build influence and credibility. And now we're talking about bringing that wall right back. And for creators, it's easy to say we're protecting people from misinformation, but I really think it's just control dressed up as caution, because regulating who's allowed to speak doesn't stop bad information. It just changes who profits from it. So, Matt, what do you think? Can you really regulate the internet's BS, or is this one that's already ending?
Yeah, it's a big topic, isn't it? It's a big topic because yeah, misinformation just drives me mad. But we're kind of in this weird zero truth world where we don't even know what is misinformation is, and everyone's got an opinion on it. But I kind of like to stick with scientific, proven, peer-reviewed scientific fact as fact, because I think we have to do that. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure how we can actually move through our lives every day. So yeah, it's a really tricky one. I mean, I hate it when I see people twisting science, and I hate it when I see people giving terrible advice, and people following it. And you feel there has to be consequences or kind of regulation against that. Um, but it's tricky. I mean, looking at I kind of left Twitter when Twitter ceased to be Twitter, but I did keep my account and I do go back on and have a sneaky look from time to time, and it's just, I mean, it's just shocking. But the trouble is that everything is also so interest algorithm driven. People are just being fed more and more, disinformation. It's interesting, kind of take on this, that sometimes people are seeing two different sets of facts and think that either side is seeing the same facts, and it's just a huge gold mine. So gold mine, no, minefield is the word I'm looking
Yes.
for. You keep using the wrong words today. So what do I think? Well, I think that there are bits that are regulated. So, in the UK, for example, if you give out financial advice in certain contexts, you have to be regulated, in a certain way. Does that apply to social media? I don't think so. It's a tricky one because I think there just has to be something to stop people just getting terrible advice. But I take your point, because who are the regulators? And if it's the Chinese government, that's probably not a good thing. And I think there's various other governments around the world at the moment that people wouldn't necessarily want to be regulated by. So I think that kind of reflects the political climate that we have all over the world at the moment. So yeah, I can't see how this can fly, which is a shame, because I think we need to have something before we just kind of sink into dystopian Armageddon. I mean, what do you think? How do we fix the issues that we have?
I think my maybe I'm looking at it in a simplistic way, but I think really having people cite their sources, and honestly starting with the people that are responsible for giving us information, journalists. I think no, everyone's looking at creators and stuff like that. Well, it's because our journalists are not being responsible
Yeah.
with the information that they're giving us, and that's why everyone's listening to influencers and all other people. I think if we go back, instead of regulating who can speak based on if you went to college and if you have this degree or not, we should be asking people to give us the source of the information, like cite your sources. As simple as that, like we've always done from the beginning of time. Journalists couldn't just go and write whatever, and just because of what they said, or interview whatever. It's like, also, when you're writing a piece, interview multiple people, get different perspectives, not just one, and not the one that's paying your employer, and keeping them in business. So I think that's where we start. Yes, we have a misinformation problem. I think requiring that people have a degree doesn't mean anything, because there's plenty of people with degrees with terrible, terrible takes. I mean, Just look at some of our government officials, is what I'll say.
No, absolutely. I think you kind of make a good you make a really good point there. So I'm looking something up for my next point because I'm going to make a point and I want to make sure I'm actually not making it up. So I'm getting ChatGPT to look it up in the background. Um, so yeah, I think you make a really good point because the way that the media used to work is we used to have a bit of a distinction between news and opinion, and it was clear what was opinion, columnists writing their take on something, and what was actually news. And the news would always have that newspaper's kind of take on it, which could be political in either in either kind of direction. But there was a sense that news was news and opinion was opinion, and I think that's just kind of blurred into each other. And I think the other aspect of this is politics as well. So politicians have always spun the truth. That's always a polite way of putting it. But really, I think we're kind of now in a position where they're just making up their own facts or just really distorting stuff and not necessarily being called out from it. And the example that I wanted to cite here, which is why I was checking it, in the British Parliament, according to their procedure, another MP is not allowed to accuse an MP of lying in the chamber. They're not allowed to say that someone has lied. And if they do, they get kicked out. So, and it's interesting, and it's kind of like it's almost like those rules came from a time where, well, people wouldn't lie. They wouldn't, they wouldn't kind of really make stuff up like that. So it's really interesting because I think that there are some sort of interesting takes on what could we do with politicians and holding them to account more for facts, particularly in those kind of legislative settings and things like that. So I think you're right. This kind of starts right from the right from the top here, and yeah, I just think we just need something needs to happen because I'm just getting fed up with it. Where I get opinion, I get that people can have different points of view on the same set of facts, but making up your own facts or just ignoring facts that are facts, it's just not working for us, is it?
It is not. And I think as consumers of information on social media, we also have to be a little more responsible with what we're believing and what we're sharing. Ask people for their source. Look, I've had it happen where I share something and someone asks me either in the comments or in DMs, where did that come from? I am happy to share it because I always have a source. It's not just
Yeah.
my opinion, unless I'm saying it's my opinion, type of thing. So if we do that for everyone, I think that will help. But what is happening is we're in these little echo chambers. We see something, we agree with it, or it sounds like, oh, yeah, this could be right. We start sharing it without even asking, where did you get this information from? And if you do that with medical, financial, and like things that are serious life or death things for other people, you are helping with the misinformation. So yeah, it's easy to sit here and say like, "Oh, we have a misinformation problem." Well, the consumers are also part of this problem because you're helping it spread.
I think one of the interesting things is what I noticed when Twitter first started actually was whenever people talked about surveys before social media, it was always people kind of paid a lot of attention to what is the sample size of this survey. And the surveys were always very clear about how they couched that. It's like, we asked 100 people who are representative of this particular audience what they thought, and these people said this. What happens now is anyone can do a survey. They don't have to really talk about how they got the data or how many people they asked, and that's taken as fact that applies to everyone. So right at the top of the show, we had 87% of executives use AI. And it's that they don't. It's not true. It's like 87% of the people that we sampled used AI. And there was no detail about how they took that sample. And anyone who's a research professional knows that there are tried and trusted ways of sampling in surveys that give you the best results. And I think with just with social media's fast turn of information, clickbait, the need for headlines, that's just kind of all just disappeared over over actually what feels like quite a short period of time. And we just don't ask the right questions about opinion polls and surveys and all that sort of stuff. And you kind of see it a lot in the we had it a lot in the UK where they go and vox pops people out in the streets. And the BBC had a habit of doing it. They'd vox pop people in a town centre on a Monday lunchtime. After COVID, when everyone works at home, and they're just getting a very, very kind of homogenous group of people who happen to be kind of around at that time, and presenting that as the views of that town or the views of that city, which is not the case. So I think that maybe we need to get back to really understanding how opinion polls and surveys are actually put together and what they actually mean.
Yeah, 100%. As you're saying that, I'm remembering back when I was growing up, the people doing these street interviews and reporting on them were comedians, right? That's what you would see on Jay Leno's show,
Yeah.
on Jimmy Kimmel, stuff like that. It slowly started creeping into the news. And now that's like literally how people get information. And like we saw, anyone can cite percentages 87%. Not, okay, who did you ask? Your mom and her 5 friends? It's like, that's, yeah, it's still a percentage, but a percentage of what? And we should go back to, we asked 10,000 people in this area, or
Yeah.
like 10,000 relevant people, because you can't just ask 10,000 people on the street. You don't know, like, for everything, right? If you're
Yeah,
gonna,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think we really, it's on both sides. It's not just regulating the people that are saying things. It's us as consumers being critical about what information we're consuming, and like calling people out on their BS. There's way too much misinformation on the internet, and it's going unchecked.
Yeah, and I think, let's start in our own industry because I think we see so much opinion as fact.
Oh
um,
my
just kind of
gosh.
out there from people who are, opinion is great, and it's really important to have opinions. It's really important to, move debate forward, have vision, have all that kind of stuff. But presenting opinion as fact does my head in. I could tell you that I could tell you that for nothing. And I think a lot of people do it. So let's get this is turning into a massive rant, isn't it? Let's get our own house in order first. So ask questions about people's sources. Don't take opinion as fact, and really learn about how surveys work, because I think it's just a really useful thing. So I think that this Chinese initiative is ending, but I think we start our own initiative of trying to find the real facts in TA.
Agree.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rhona, for doing that. I wasn't expecting to have a rant about survey methodology tonight, but it must be the alcohol-free cider. Thank you very much for being on the show and bringing that to us.
See you next week.
Absolutely. So that brings us to the end of another show. So thanks to Rhona, thanks to Jamie for being a great guest. Thank you to Alan, our amazing producer, for holding it all together and not getting too distracted by trying to get ChatGPT to talk as our co-host. More on that next week. There are a ton of shows that Purple Acorn have on that you should check out. Rhona's show, Workfluencer, the HR Morning Show, From the Desk, My First Job, From X to Z, so many of them. So head over to Purple Acorn's LinkedIn page and give it a follow. Or as well, check out purpleacornnetwork.com. You can find this show as a podcast on Spotify, on Apple, and everywhere else where you find your quality podcasts. If you want to listen to some of my longer form interviews on recruiting, wrong finger, on that way, there is it. On Recruiting Future, there it is. Recruiting Future. You can find that as a podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts as well. The Alder Hour will be back next week, and I'm already looking forward to it. This is Matt Alder, clocking out.